Welcome to this week's episode of Connect the Dots, a production of Industry Intelligence Incorporated. I'm your host, Nevin Barich, and this week we're talking about independent restaurants and how they're on the chopping block due to the coronavirus pandemic. You know, there's a place not far from my home called Michael's Burger. This is a small, family-owned, fast casual restaurant in Canoga Park, which is a suburb in LA's San Fernando Valley. And it's one of these places that has everything. They've got burgers, hot dogs, sandwiches, burritos, fries, onion rings. They got those dinner specials that feature things like steak and fried chicken and mashed potatoes. And ask any of their regular customers what's good there, and you'll get the same answer. Everything. It's a place like that. Now, I'm a food and beverage guy. That's my focus at Industry Intelligence. And for me, it's places like these that leave the most lasting impressions. It's the mom and pop places that I look back on most fondly. Places like Hot Dog Factory, Angelo's, the Munchbox. Now, most of you, I'm sure, have never heard of these places, and that's okay, because I'm sure you have your own independent restaurants that I've never heard of that you think fondly of. And let's be clear. There's nothing against places like McDonald's or Taco Bell or IHOP or Chili's or Wendy's. And those places have my business too. They always will. But major chains, they don't give you the same warm and fuzzy feelings. I mean, they're chains. They're big business. They're not supposed to make you feel like family. That's the job of these little independent restaurants. They're the ones that make you feel special. They're the ones that are going to remember your order. They're the places that I can walk into and the guy behind the counter, who's always the same guy, smiles and says, "Hey, Nev, the usual?" The sad thing, unfortunately, is that the coronavirus pandemic is threatening to take that all away. Now, shortly after the pandemic began, the Independent Restaurant Coalition was formed. They're a US-based trade group formed by independent restaurants and chefs. And not long ago, they came out with a report that said up to 85% of independent restaurants in this country will go out of business by the end of the year. Now, the reasoning was simple. Independent restaurants, which by the way make up 70% of all restaurants in the US, rely more heavily on dine-in revenue than major chains, which is obviously a problem since the pandemic has closed down most dine-in service. And also, these small restaurants don't have a corporate safety net or support system to fall back on like major chains do. And in the process, as these small restaurants go out of business, major chains, your Chipotle's, your Dunkin's, your Domino's, are looking to snatch up the real estate left behind by the small restaurants and add their own locations. And of course, from a business standpoint, that makes sense. I mean, the dots easily connect here. Small businesses fold because they don't have the money to hang in there during the pandemic. So large businesses take over because they do have the money to hang in there during the pandemic. So from a business point, yeah, it makes sense. But from an emotional standpoint, it's sad. I mean, the generations of today and tomorrow are losing something valuable. They're losing the opportunity to go somewhere where people know you, where they're happy to see you, and know just what you want to eat and how you like to eat it. And that's something you just don't get from a major chain. This past weekend, the Cheers bar in Boston closed down due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, as many of you know, the Cheers bar is based on the TV series that ran from the early 80s to the early 90s. And there's that famous line in the show's theme song, "You want to go where everybody knows your name." Well, because of the pandemic, there will be fewer and fewer places where they know your name. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Connect the Dots, a production of Industry Intelligence. It's easy to find out more about Industry Intel. Just go to www.industryintel.com, check out our blogs, check out our podcasts, look at our services, meet our team, and find out how we can make your business better. Thanks for listening. I'm Nevin Barich. Until next time.